When they measure Paddy Pimblett's reach, they don't use his arms. They use his chin. Because the way he fights, his chin protrudes even further than his hands. As you may or may not know, a few days ago, I uploaded a prediction video about Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. And I chose Gaethje. And as far as I'm confirmed, I was pretty articulate about it. I think I did a good job. And I think the fight played out very similar to what I had mentioned. And then a couple of days later, of course, I did an actual breakdown video of the event itself. And, if you've been here for any good amount of time, you already know that I like to be thorough. I like to do a good job, and I want to make sure that I have checked out every single avenue, every single angle that there is. And I felt, to be honest with you, I felt that there was a couple things that I wished I had addressed, and I didn't. But right off the top, I want to mention some things. I did watch the fight again. I watched it normal. I watched it, as they say, I watched it with the sound off, just for pure objectivity, And then I watched it again with the sound louder. I hooked it up to my Bluetooth speaker. Neighbors complained and everything. I was blasting that. And then I watched it again. Well, I don't know if you could say I watched it. Then I played the fight again. And I only listened to it. I wouldn't even look at the screen. No visuals. I only listened to it. Just to make sure I covered every single angle, all the bases. Then I played it again. And I wasn't even in the house. I told my lady, watch the fight for me. And then I want you to relate to me what happened. Just a sheer third-party perspective. I just wanted to have every single angle to make sure I had a comprehensive understanding of what went down that night. And then I even had some comments. I had some people, some devoted viewers of the channel leave some comments. And I got to point out, I got to give a shout out to Melancholy Martial Arts. He left a comment on the video of my breakdown video. Because I had mentioned, look, I don't hate him or anything. I got nothing against him. But I'm not a fanboy of Justin Gaethje. I never have been. I've called him many a time and time again. I called him a rock'em sock'em robot. And he's kind of like a one-trick pony kind of a thing. And, never, always a bridesmaid, never quite at that capacity to be able to be a real undisputed champion. And I said, hey, it's the better of the two evils, I knew from these two bridesmaids that it was going to be Gaethje. So it's not that I was a fan, but I went out on a limb, and I made a big prediction. I feel like a lot of people said that he was too old, he was too small, and this and that, which again is ridiculous. I watched all the Pimblett fights, all the Gaethje fights leading up. Gaethje fought bigger dudes than Pimblett, and he beat them. They're not that much apart in age. They're fighting in the same weight class. I mean, at a certain point, some of these things just don't make any sense. And anyway, even though I'm not a big fan, I called him to win. So, and then in a sense, I'm rooting for him to win because I made a prediction. And I made the comment that I was concerned throughout the fight that he was starting to look real chinny. And he was taking too many so that he could give some. And it was making me nervous. I think the most he did it was in the 5th round. And it was getting toward the end. I was like, is this going to be another Max Holloway type of situation? I think maybe some happened in the 3rd. He really gave up that round, but the 5th round for sure. And I made comments that he was looking sluggish and real chinny. And that, he might be on, the further back end of the career than we thought. And then Melancholy Martial Arts pointed out that he thought, and I felt like an idiot for not coming to this realization myself, to be honest with you. He said that he thinks it might have something to do with the staph infection. Now, I know that Justin Gaethje was saying that it was an ingrown hair. And I was saying on one of my videos that ain't no ingrown hair. If anything, that's an ingrown afro, homie. That's a little bit too bulbous. I've had an ingrown hair. And I never needed a second beanie to cover it up and make sure I keep it warm. That's crazy, bro. So let's just call it like it is. Most likely a staph infection. Melancholy Martial Arts said, I think it was the staph infection. I think that's what slowed him down. That's what made him sluggish. He's on antibiotics. And I was like, that makes sense. Because look, I know relatively Gaethje's in great shape, right? You take 50 dudes that are watching this video right now and put them in a room with Gaethje. He's probably going to be in better shape than most of the dudes, right? I mean, he's a professional fighter. But I don't know if I've ever seen him look as chunky, for him as I did that night. There was something a little, I know they joked about him in the past, Homer Simpson and whatnot. I've never seen a dude closer to Homer Simpson than I did that night. He was looking, and again, with all disrespect, I know that he's relatively fit, but for him, I've never seen him look that chunky. It was weird. And that's what antibiotics do to you. They bloat you. They'll make you gain weight. So then that compiled with just the way that he was kind of moving and looking like he wasn't himself, and what I took as chinny, maybe that's just be him like last week. I was all messed up during the streams because I got like a flu or something, and I was just out of my element, and I was feeling sluggish, I was feeling foggy, and maybe that's kind of the Dustin that we saw in there. Maybe that's it, and that makes me kind of happy because I don't think, of course, it might make for a nice highlight or whatever, but I think whoever Dustin fights next, whether it's Sarukian, whether it's probably never going to happen because that dude keeps running. Tapoera, McGregor potentially at the White House. We probably don't want to see a 10-second knockout. We probably want to see a good fight from Gaethje. So hopefully it was the staff. Hopefully it was the antibiotics, and he's not as chinny as I was starting to think, and that we're going to see some more work from him. So I just wanted to shout out the viewer for making that observation. And then there was another comment, and I want to thank the people. The people have been really responsive and engaging on the last few videos I did, and I'm loving these comments. Somebody else said, and I wrote his name down, Elevated Vibes Collective. He said, and look, I know some people, you just conspiracy theorists, chill out. Everything doesn't have to be about that. Hey, but this makes sense, though. He made the comment that he believes it's possible that Justin Gaethje took off some rounds and was even willing to eat some extra punches to ensure that him and Pimblett would, you already know what I'm going to say, right? Because it makes sense. So that they could get the fight of the night. Now, if you don't know this, if you weren't paying that much of attention, if Gaethje would have finished Pimblett, he would have got a $25,000 bonus. But if they get fight of the night, they get $100,000. $100,000 each. We've heard the types of comments that Gaethje's made over the years. I've been saying it a lot. He's the dude that, like, from the start, right when he came into the UFC, he's like, yeah, I'm probably going to get knocked out at some point because of my fighting style. That's just the way I am, and I'm not going to change for anybody. I'll probably get knocked out. He's full-blown Aaron Neville. That homie's going to tell it like it is. He doesn't care. No shame in the game, nothing to hide. And he's the type of dude that's like, man, I don't care if I could have knocked this dude out at the end of the first round because I had him all laid out and the referee was running over because he was ready to do his thing because everybody could see what was happening. Charlie, I'm the dude that was doing the press circuit talking about how I've had 14 fight bonuses and they never even equaled $1 million over all these years. I'm going to get my money. I'm going to carry this fool. It would make complete sense for Justin Gaethje to do something like that. He doesn't know what the future holds for him. He doesn't know who he has next. He doesn't know how many fights he has next. He pretty much implied that if he didn't even win this one against Pimblett, that it was over. So what if he loses the next one or the next one? It's probably going to be over. So it actually makes a lot of sense that Gaethje carried this fool because that has been a lot of chatter after this fight. What was up with Gaethje? He had so many opportunities to end this fight and he didn't. What's going on here? Maybe he wanted to make that money. Why does he do it? Why does he fight? Is it so that he could get extra appetizers when he goes to the Red Robin? Is it so that he could have people bugging him his whole life and stopping him at airports and trying to get autographs and photos? Is it so that he could get ladies? He already has a lady. It's a job, right? Why do you get up and go to work? It's a job. He's trying to get paid. And again, I want to shout out Elevated Vibes Collective for making that observation. I thought that it was very interesting. Something else I wanted to address that I felt like an idiot that I didn't talk about in the last video. I believe that it's highly likely that Pimblett looked as bad as he did strategy-wise. Because look, I have to shout it out. Paddy Pimblett apparently is the Liverpudlian zombie. We got Korean zombie. We got the Brazilian zombie with Charles Oliveira. And now we got the Liverpudlian zombie. That dude has a chin. So he hung in there. Can we say he's tough? Sure. But the strategy? Abysmal. So I think what he may have been counting on was Gaethje's leg kicks, which is like what everybody was counting on. They were counting on the leg kicks. And I think he was going to use that as his entry for the takedowns. So when Gaethje wasn't even kicking the first whole 2 rounds, that had to have thrown off Pimblett, because that's like all that Gaethje does. Again, I went and watched both of these dudes' fights in the weeks leading up to the event. Every single fight meticulously. I was taking notes, and Gaethje always comes out with the leg kicks. Always comes out from the get with the leg kicks. This had to confuse Pimblett big time. That's the way that he was going to get to where he wanted to be. Takedowns and submissions. Because again, Paddy Pimblett, I keep saying it, has atrocious takedown entries. And that's why he kept getting stuffed. And that's why he gets stuffed often. And Gaethje particularly has a fantastic takedown defense. So Pimblett's only hope was the leg kicks. He was going to catch him, and he was going to take him down. Now, why would Pimblett have been so confident about that if Gaethje has such good takedown defense and Pimblett has such terrible entries? Because Gaethje gets his kicks caught constantly. I was originally going to do one of my edited breakdowns where I have all the visuals and the Photoshop stuff and the cutaways and the sound effects and this and that. That's why I was taking certain types of notes. And then I had them all scattered, and that's why I was kind of like not remembering to talk about it in my prediction video. I went back and looked on my notepads, all the text messages I sent to myself, the Google Drive document that I had, and the main concern I had for Gaethje in my notes was he gets his leg kicks caught way too much. And I personally believe that's why he lost to Eddie Alvarez. And it could be a number of things. Maybe he came in too cocky, like he said Pimblett did in this fight. He was too mature. He wasn't ready, whatever. But he got his kicks caught way too much. And this just shows the experience. It shows the levels. Because Paddy came in here thinking, well, that's what he always does. I'm going to go for that, and that's my one key to victory. Gaethje thought, he's probably seen tape. He probably knows I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to do that. Gaethje could have came in there like, one of those little baby snakes that just gives all its venom away in the first bite. Did you learn about that in school? That's the baby ones are the most dangerous because they just give away all their venom and they don't know how to control it like their elders. It's the same thing. Gaethje has enough experience that he's like, I'm not going to give this all away in the trailer. I'm going to hold some stuff back. I'm going to confuse him. Then I'm going to come out later. And he said this. I'm not coming up with this off the beanie right here. He said this in the post-fight press conference that is what he was doing. He was waiting. He was trying to mess with that dude's head, and then he came out with them in the 3rd round. So Pimblett didn't have the kicks to work with to get the takedowns that he was looking for because Gaethje was smart. But what was very interesting was Paddy was leg kicking the leg kicker. Paddy was out there trying to kick down them banana trees. Paddy, I don't know, I understand if you're expecting leg kicks and you're going to grab onto them and you're thinking, I hope this fight has lots of leg kicks. Yeah, not from you though, homie. Not from you. Pimblett went in there thinking, I want leg kicks. I want leg kicks. I want leg kicks. And it's like when Gaethje wasn't throwing them, he's like, well, then I'll throw them. I don't know if he thought that Gaethje was going to mirror him, if he thought those leg kicks were going to be like a sneeze and they were going to be contagious and then Gaethje was going to start leg kicking. I don't know. But Pimblett started leg kicking the leg kicker. He was basically leg kicking the Makiwara. So because he didn't have Gaethje's leg kicks to grab onto and to get his takedowns, he ended up doing all these haphazard entries. And it was sloppy, just like always. And he was still, when it came to his striking, fighting with his chin way up in the air. Paddy Pimblett, when they met, I don't know if you guys know this. I heard this in the pre-fight, in the ceremonial weigh-ins. When they measure Paddy Pimblett's reach, they don't use his arms. They use his chin. Because the way he fights, his chin protrudes even further than his hands. So they're not measuring like this. They get the tape measure right there on his chin because the dude just leaves it right out there for everybody. And then he said that he was going to change Gaethje's face. Gaethje looked the same as he did all fight week. Paddy's the one that left there with his face change. Paddy left the arena looking like Joanna Young Jacek. When Paddy left the event, they were still cheering. They were saying, "Oh, Paddy the caddy. Oh, Paddy the caddy." Like as in cadaver.